The Cleveland Cavaliers joined the NBA as an expansion team in 1970. The next 16 years of Cavs basketball saw them find some success under Bill Fitch in the 70s, as they won a division championship and made it to the second round of the playoffs in 1976. And then in the early 80s, the team was ran by Ted Stepien, who, due to his tendency to trade future first-round picks, became the inspiration for the Stepien Rule. But the team would get a few great years from World B free. However, this led to just one playoff appearance. So by the 1986 draft, the Cavs could no longer call themselves a new team. They had 4 playoff appearances in franchise history, but had just lost World B free to free agency. But thanks to the greatest overall draft in Cavs history, they secured 3 great young players, and 2 that would turn into a couple of the best to ever play for the franchise. And those 2 are going to be the focus of today's episode of Disregarded Duos, as they, along with the deep Cavaliers team, spearheaded the charge for the most successful era of Cavs basketball pre-LeBron James. As in their 8 seasons together, the Cavs had 3 seasons with over 50 wins, 6 playoff appearances, and even 1 Eastern Conference Finals appearance in 1992. Unfortunately for Mark Price and Brad Daugherty, they each dealt with major injury at some point in their time together, and even though Price was able to recover fully, once he returned, Daugherty started breaking down, and as we've seen with other players like Larry Bird and Tracy McGrady, back injuries are often death sentences for careers, and Daugherty's would be just that, as it limited him to just 8 seasons, with his last game being played at the prime age of 28. But in their time together, they brought excitement to Cleveland beyond any level that basketball had brought them before. Also, before we get started, I do want to make sure I acknowledge that this could very easily be looked at as a trio, with Larry Nance included. But for the purpose of this series, how well Price and Daugherty played off each other, and the fact that they were brought into Cleveland and developed together as rookies to become what they did, we'll stick with them as a duo. And not to take anything away from Nance, but he already had an all-star selection to his name, and was basically averaging 21 and 10 in Phoenix before he was acquired. So you already knew what you were getting. Okay, let's get started. Going into the 1986 draft, the Cavs had 2 picks in the top 10, with one of these being the first overall selection, and they took a 7-foot big man out of North Carolina named Brad Daugherty, who during his time in Chapel Hill would play alongside future NBA legend Michael Jordan as a freshman and sophomore, before earning 2 first-team all-conference selections as a junior and senior, while also being named a second-team All-American as a senior, making it to the tournament each year and averaging 20 and 9 as a senior. Next, with the 9th pick, they selected shooting guard Ron Harper out of Miami of Ohio, where in his time there, he would earn 3 straight first-team all-conference selections, back-to-back conference player of the years, and a consensus second-team All-American alongside Daugherty in '86, where he would average nearly 24.5 points and 12 rebounds per game. The last great acquisition of this draft was the first player selected in the second round by the Dallas Mavericks, who the Cavs would trade for on draft day. This player was a 6-foot point guard out of Georgia Tech, who was considered too small and too slow to have any impact as a pro. And this player was Mark Price, who during his time as a Yellow Jacket set a variety of school records while making first or second team all-conference in each of his 4 years, as well as a consensus second team All-American in his junior season. So, the 1987 season began with both Daugherty and Harper as day 1 starters under head coach Lenny Wilkens. The team already had a couple other players who would also become key pieces in the future, in John Hot Rod Williams and Craig Ehlo. Harper and Daugherty would both have great rookie seasons, which would see both of them be named to the all-rookie first team, and finish first and second on the team in scoring. Price wouldn't have as easy a path to early recognition, as he came off the bench behind John Bagley all season. But even though Price only got about 18 minutes per game, he still led all non-starters in points and assists per game. But the Cavs were a young team, as they only had 2 players over the age of 26 on their roster, and the inexperience showed, as they would have just a 2-game improvement on the previous year and finish 31 and 51. And for their first season together, Price would average about 7 points, 1.5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, while leading the team in 3-point percentage at nearly 33%. And Daugherty put up about 15.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists on nearly 54% shooting. Bagley was gone to start the 1988 season, which meant Price was the team's new starting point guard, and he did not disappoint, as he upped his scoring average by nearly 10 points per game, while doubling his assists and steals, and shooting over 50% from the field and nearly 49% from 3. Daugherty improved as well, as he upped his scoring, rebound, and assist averages, which included a career-high 44 points and an April 15th win versus Boston. And these improvements were good enough for Daugherty to get his first All-Star selection. Ron Harper would be hampered with injuries throughout the season and only played in 57 games. But the Cavs were still improving and were 28-27 on February 25th. But they knew they needed something more to make a playoff push. So the Cavs sent their rookie point guard Kevin Johnson, along with Tyrone Corbin and Mark West, to the Suns for Mike Sanders and star forward Larry Nance, who at the time of the trade was averaging 21 points and 10 rebounds for a lowly Phoenix squad. And ironically, this trade occurred on the same day that the Suns were playing the Cavs, as Nance would recall he was already dressed in his Suns uniform when he was given the news of the trade. Nance provided another scoring option for the Cavs, but more importantly, he was a great defender and shot blocker to pair alongside Hot Rod Williams. This trade didn't necessarily push the Cavs over the edge, as they went 14-13 post-trade, but their 42-40 record was still enough for a playoff berth for a team that finished with the second best defense in the league. The Cavs would get a young Michael Jordan in their first playoff appearance of the Price-Daugherty era, which ended in a loss. But it was a close series that went 5 games, with only one game being decided by double figures. And even though Jordan dominated, averaging over 45 points per game, Price played an incredible series of his own, as he led the team in scoring and assists, while shooting nearly 57% from the field, nearly 42% from 3, and 96% from the free throw line, including a 17-point, 12-assist Game 1, and a 31-point Game 3 on 78.6% shooting. Daugherty didn't quite have the same success as Price, as his scoring numbers dropped by nearly 3 points. But he would have 3 double-doubles, and the Cavs did have a balanced scoring attack, with all 5 starters averaging over 12 points per game for the series. And for the regular season, Price averaged about 16 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 6 assists per game, while Daugherty averaged about 18.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. With a full season of Larry Nance and a healthy Harper playing all 82 games, the '89 Cavs had a great regular season that saw them finish tied for the second best record in the league at 57-25, behind a third-ranked defense and an offense in the top half of the league. An important note to this season would be on February 28th, when Price took a deliberate elbow to the head from Rick Mahorn during a blowout win for the Cavs versus the Pistons. This would knock him out of the next 2 games. Yet, even after returning, Price wouldn't be the same the rest of the year, as his shooting percentage dropped nearly 10%, and the Cavs went 15-13 and dropped to the 2nd seed in the East. And one can't help but wonder if part of the reason for this dirty play from Mahorn was in retaliation for a fight between Daugherty and Bill Laimbeer about a month earlier. Overall though, this season saw further improvement from Price, as he upped his numbers across the board for the 3rd straight year, and would be a member of the 50-40-90 club, the only time in his career, and just the 2nd player in NBA history at the time. Daugherty would also improve his scoring and rebounding from the previous year, and the Cavs saw themselves sending 3 players and their coach to the All-Star game. With the Cavs falling to the 2nd seed, they got a rematch with Jordan and the Bulls, instead of the Celtics had they been the 1st seed. The first round was an even closer 5-game series than the year before, as no game was decided by more than 8 points. Harper and Nance would be the Cavs' top players this series, as they both put up over 19 a game on at least 55% shooting. Unfortunately, Price and Daugherty had their struggles, as Price shot under 39% for the series while averaging almost 5 turnovers per game, and Daugherty averaged just 11 points on 36% shooting. But even so, the Cavs found themselves up by 1 with seconds left in Game 5. But as we all know, Jordan capped off a 44-point night with one of the most famous shots of his career. But for the regular season, Price averaged nearly 19 points, 3 rebounds, and 8.5 assists per game, while Daugherty put up about 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game. 1990 was a step back that the Cavs did not anticipate. 7 games into the season, Harper was unexpectedly traded to the Clippers, along with picks for Danny Ferry and Reggie Williams, with the latter playing just 32 games for Cleveland before being waived. So that was a big piece of the Cavs' offense gone. And to add insult to injury, or in this case, injury to insult, Daugherty missed over half the season with acute agony of the feet, stemming from nerve swelling, and Nance would also end up missing 20 games this year. So Price had to shoulder more of the offensive load, and responded with a career-high scoring average and career-high assist average up to that point, which included a 20-assist game in an April 4th win versus Atlanta. A depleted Cavs team finished with the 21st ranked offense and a 42-40 record, but they still made the playoffs as a 7 seed, where they would face Charles Barkley and the Sixers, and another 5-game first-round series ended in defeat for the Cavs, as they dropped the first 2 games before evening up the series, only to lose in Game 5. However, this series was encouraging, as Daugherty had returned for the series, and both he and Price played exceptionally, as they each put up over 20 a game, while each shooting over 52%, which would include Price dishing a playoff career-high 18 assists in a Game 4 win. And for the regular season, Price averaged about 19.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 9 assists per game, while Daugherty's shortened campaign saw him put up about 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. The Cavs would begin the 91 season modestly, as they would be 8-7 going into a November 30th game versus Atlanta. Price had been having his best all-around year up to this point, as he was averaging a double-double, along with over 2.5 steals per game and over 95% from the free throw line. But then, tragedy struck, as Price tore his ACL diving into the scorer's table for a loose ball. And even though the Cavs had a good team still, Price was clearly the head of the snake, as the Cavs had lost 8 of the 9 games he missed the previous year. So now, Price would be out for the season. And on top of that, Williams would also miss nearly half the season with a foot injury. And even though Daugherty and Nance were healthy, the Cavs just couldn't seem to string together an injury-free season, and especially felt the loss of Price, as they finished 33-49 and would miss the playoffs. Daugherty would step up in Price's absence, as he would have the first of 3 straight 20-plus point and 10-plus rebound seasons, which included 21 and 24 in a March 8th loss versus Sacramento, which helped him get his second All-Star selection, and Nance would also have his best scoring season since his Phoenix days. And for the regular season, Price averaged about 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 10.5 assists per game, while Daugherty put up about 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game. 1992 was the season the Cavs put it all together. The team was healthy, and Price came back from the injury almost seamlessly, which surprised a lot of people. Daugherty and Price would play 73 and 72 games respectively, and both be named All-Stars, with Price leading the league in free throw percentage and Daugherty shooting 57% from the field. 5 players would average over 11 points per game, and the Cavs finished 57-25, which included an 11-game win streak. The Cavs would draw the upstart New Jersey Nets in the first round, and would win the series in 4, which included Daugherty and Price each scoring their postseason career highs in Game 1, with 40 and 35 respectively. And Daugherty averaging over 25 and 11 in the series, with Price adding 21 and 10 assists. Round 2 would be a hard-fought 7-game series versus Reggie Lewis and the Celtics, as injuries would limit Larry Bird to 4 games and just 2 starts. Price and Daugherty would again be the stars of the series for the Cavs, as Price put up nearly 19 points and 8 assists on over 52% shooting, and Daugherty put up over 22 and nearly 10 boards on over 58% shooting. The Eastern Conference Finals would have the Cavs matched up with a familiar foe, as they met Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the defending champion Bulls, but once again were defeated, this time in 6 games. Jordan again led the way with nearly 32 a game for the Bulls, and Price and Daugherty would play solid, but not at the level they had been playing, as Price's assists dropped to less than 6 per game, while Daugherty put up less than 18 points per game. And while they didn't know it yet, this would be as close as these Cavs would get to the mountaintop, as the end of this era was nearing. But for the regular season, Price averaged about 17.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists per game, while Daugherty averaged about 21.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game. 1993 would be another great year for the Cavs, as they finished 54-28, with a top 10 offense and top 5 defense. The team had also acquired Gerald Wilkins for some more bench scoring. The team once again stayed relatively healthy and sent 3 players to the All-Star game for the second time in 5 seasons. Price again led the league in free throw percentage and would earn the title of 3-point shootout champion. Daugherty and Price would be the team's leading scorers, and Price would score a career-high 39 in a December 12th win versus Seattle. Going into the playoffs, the Cavs would face the Nets in the first round for the second year in a row. The teams would trade wins until the Cavs finished it off in Game 5. But this series may have ended differently if Kenny Anderson hadn't been out with a broken wrist, especially since Price struggled, averaging just 12.5 points on less than 40% shooting. But Nance and Daugherty picked up the slack, with Daugherty having a great series, averaging about 21 and 13. Round 2 was the Bulls again, and as was all too familiar at this point, it ended with a sweep by the Bulls that included Jordan hitting a game winner to seal the series. Nance would be the best player in this series for the Cavs, as he led the team in scoring with over 17 per game on over 62% shooting. Daugherty would add about 16 and 10, while Price contributed just 13.5 and 6 assists, but did it efficiently at over 51% from the field and 50% from 3. And for the regular season, Price averaged about 18 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 8 assists per game, while Daugherty put up about 20, 10, and 4 assists per game. The Cavs had a new coach to start the '94 season in Mike Fratello, but their front court would be out of commission for a lot of the year. A 34-year-old Nance would only play 33 games in what would be the final season of his career, as he put up his lowest numbers since his rookie year. But the bigger problem was in Daugherty missing his final 22 games of the season and the playoffs, in what was thought to be a lower back strain. But he still had a solid season in the 50 games he played, averaging a double-double. Price would be the team's top scorer and be voted to his 4th and last All-Star game, and would win his 2nd straight three-point crown after making 20 of his first 22 shots in the final round. Price would lead the team to a playoff matchup against the Bulls, and needless to say, they would lose in a first-round sweep to a Bulls team without Michael Jordan. Unfortunately, Price would have a rough series, as he would average less than 5 assists and shoot under 35% from the field and about 25% from 3. And the season would end with Price putting up averages of about 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 8 assists per game, while Daugherty averaged about 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. And this would unexpectedly be the end of this tandem and this era of Cavs basketball. Daugherty would undergo back surgery in December of 1994, but would never recover from his injury. And even though he didn't officially retire until '96, his final game was on February 23rd, 1994, at the age of 28. Price would play one more injury-riddled season in Cleveland that saw young point guard Terrell Brandon fill in well for him and convinced the Cavs to go forward with him as their starter. So Price was traded to the Bullets for a first-round pick prior to the '96 season, but would only play 7 games this year. He would then have a solid '97 season in Golden State, leading the league in free throw percentage for the 3rd time in his career, before finishing his career in Orlando after the '98 season. Price and Daugherty had so much potential and fed well off of each other on the court. Injuries in the middle of their time together took away what could have been 2 more very successful years of Cavs basketball. But even after these injuries, and when they were healthy, they just couldn't get past the Bulls. Price was not expected to be as good as he was, but his quickness and ability to push the ball, matched with an incredible shooting stroke and fearlessness pulling up in transition, was a tough task for any defense. Daugherty was the complete package on offense, with his mobility and touch around the basket, great post moves, and mid-range shot. Price and Daugherty ran a great pick and roll or pick and pop, and Price could always find the open man. But so could Daugherty, as he was one of the best passing centers of all time, with a career average of close to 4 assists per game. They weren't the same threat on defense as they were on offense, but that's where guys like Nance, Williams, and Ehlo could pick up the slack. The most frustrating part of this era of Cavs basketball was the trade of Ron Harper, as if he would have been on the team throughout this run, they really may have been able to push through to the top. But there will always be some big questions surrounding these Cavs teams. But one thing that isn't in question is that when the Cavs had a healthy Price and Daugherty on the floor together, they were a threat to beat anybody. And that's it for this episode of Disregarded Duos on Mark Price and Brad Daugherty. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more videos like these. If you like this video, check out these other overlooked duos, or this video on the guard that replaced Mark Price in Cleveland. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.